"You're not my daughter." He spat the words beside my mother's casket, his breath reeking of cheap whiskey and entitlement. I'd stayed silent my whole life, swallowing every insult, every shove, every degradation. But not today. The punch to my back sent funeral flowers scattering across the floor, and as I pushed myself up from the cold linoleum, I wasn't just reclaiming my dignity, I was reclaiming my mother's life, her truth, and everything he'd stolen from us both. The first time Martin told me that women should know when to shut up, I was 16 years old, sitting at our dinner table with a college acceptance letter in my hand. Mom had been so proud her eyes bright despite the first round of chemo until Martin slammed his beer bottle down and declared that college was a waste for girls who'd just end up pregnant anyway. That was 13 years ago. 13 years of watching my mother shrink herself smaller and smaller, trying to fit into the space Martin allowed her. The perfect wife, the silent partner, the woman who smiled at church socials while her husband controlled every penny she earned from her teaching job before the cancer made work impossible. Now, 3 days after the funeral, I sat in my studio apartment scrolling through Mom's email on her old laptop. She'd given me the password 2 months ago, just in case, written on the back of a grocery receipt with a shaking hand. What I found made my stomach turn. Overdue notices from Columbus General Hospital, final warnings from the Oncology Center, all dated within the last 6 months, all claiming non-payment. But I knew Martin had been using Mom's credit cards. I'd seen him at Best Buy just last week, buying a new 70-inch TV while Mom's medical bills piled up. Then, I found it an email from Shelter Point Life Insurance, dated 2 weeks before Mom's death. Beneficiary change request processed. New primary beneficiary Martin Hale. My hands went cold. Mom's original policy I'd helped her fill it out 5 years ago when she first got sick had listed me as the sole beneficiary. She'd been adamant about it. For your student loans, sweetheart. So you can start fresh. I dug deeper. There, in her sent folder, was an email she'd never finished, addressed to me, Ava, if something happens, don't let him sell the house. He made me sign something, but I was on so much medication I can't remember. The draft ended mid-sentence. I thought about the last time I'd seen Mom alert and fully conscious. 2 days before she died. Martin had brought papers to the hospital, insisted she needed to sign them for insurance purposes. She'd been confused, her face still swollen from the surgery where they'd tried to remove the tumors pressing against her spine. But she'd signed. She always signed whatever he put in front of her. And the phone. God, the phone. Martin had insisted on setting up her new iPhone after her surgery, said he was adding his face and fingerprint in case of emergencies. Mom had been too weak to question it, too medicated to realize what she was agreeing to. He'd held her hand, pressed her thumb to the sensor while she dozed. Just being practical, he'd said when I questioned him. Someone needs access if something happens. Something had happened all right. Mom was dead, and Martin was already counting his money. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Noah Delgado. We'd gone to Ohio State together, and last I heard, he was working at Franklin County Legal Aid. It was 9:30 p.m., but I called anyway. Ava, hey, I heard about your mom. I'm so sorry. Noah, I need your help. It's about her estate. I think my stepfather... I paused, choosing my words carefully. I think he manipulated her when she was vulnerable. There was silence on the other end. Then, can you come by my office tomorrow? Bring any documents you have. After I hung up, I sat in the dark of my apartment, thinking about all the times Mom had apologized to me with her eyes while Martin raged about something insignificant, all the dinners where she'd stayed silent while he decided our lives, all the doctor's appointments where he spoke for her, over her, through her, until she stopped trying to speak at all. He'd stolen her voice while she was alive. I'd be damned if I'd let him steal everything else now that she was gone. The key was exactly where Mom said it would be, under the orchid pot in the laundry room. Martin hadn't changed the locks yet. Probably didn't think I'd dare come back after what happened at the funeral, but there I was at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday, while he was at his job at the warehouse, letting myself into my childhood home. The metal safe sat behind the dryer, painted the same beige as the wall. My hands trembled as I inserted the key. Inside, I found everything Mom's original life insurance policy with my name in her careful handwriting, dated 2 years ago. Then, paper clipped to it. A beneficiary change form in different ink black instead of Mom's signature blue, dated just 10 days before her death. The signature was shaky, wrong. Mom always made her capital M's with a flourish. This one was flat, rushed. My phone buzzed. Noah, can you meet me at my office in an hour and bring Cora Pike if you can reach her? Cora had already agreed to help. She'd seen enough at the funeral home, she said, and had something that might help security footage from the memorial hall. An hour later, I sat in Noah's cramped office at Franklin County Legal Aid, papers spread across his desk. Cora was there, along with someone Noah introduced as Sumi Patel, a community lawyer who specialized in elder abuse cases. "This is clear manipulation of a vulnerable adult," Sumi said, examining the documents. "The timeline alone is damning, but we need more." Cora pulled out her phone. "I have the security footage from the funeral, audio and video. You can hear him say she's not his daughter. See him strike her." Noah was already taking notes. "Ava, has Martin done anything since the funeral?" "He changed the locks yesterday. Sent me a text saying I'm not welcome at the house, that it's his property now." I showed them my phone. "And look at this." The screenshot showed our mother's final text to me, sent 3 weeks ago. "If something happens, don't let him sell the house, please." "We need to move fast," Sumi said. "First, we file a restraining order based on the assault. That's documented, witnessed. Then we challenge the beneficiary change and freeze the insurance payout." "Can we do that?" I asked. "We can if we claim undue influence and forgery," Noah said. "The medical records will show your mother's condition at the time. No one in her state could have made an informed decision about changing beneficiaries." Cora leaned forward. "There's something else. The day before the funeral, Martin came in to make changes to the service. He was drunk, talking loudly on his phone about some quick cash home buyer, said he needed to move this property fast before the stepdaughter causes problems." My stomach clenched. Mom's house, our house, where she'd taught me to read in the sunny breakfast nook, where she'd planted roses in the backyard every spring until she got too sick to garden. "We need everything documented," Sumi said, pulling out her laptop. "Ava, I need you to write down every incident you can remember, every controlling behavior, every financial transaction you questioned, every time he prevented you from seeing your mother alone." As I started writing, memories flooded back. The time he wouldn't let me take Mom to her oncologist appointment because women get too emotional about these things. The weekend he went to Vegas while Mom was in the ICU, taking her debit card with him. The way he'd dismissed the hospice nurse's concerns about Mom's pain levels because she's just being dramatic. "This is good," Noah said, reading over my shoulder. "This establishes a pattern. Now, about the phone, you said he set up biometric access. While she was barely conscious after surgery, the nurses might remember he made a big show of being the devoted husband, but I heard one of them question whether Mom was alert enough to consent. Sumi was already pulling up hospital forms. "We'll subpoena those records, if we can prove she was under heavy sedation when he gained access to her accounts." "That's fraud," Noah finished. "Criminal fraud." For the first time since the funeral, I felt something other than grief and rage. I felt hope. "So, what's our next move?" I asked. Sumi smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone about to serve justice ice cold. "We're going to set a trap, and Martin's greed is going to walk him right into it." The restraining order was served on a Thursday. By Friday afternoon, Martin had launched his counterattack. "Ungrateful bitch trying to steal from grieving widower." Read the Facebook post on Mom's account, the account Martin now controlled. "After everything I did for her and her mother, Margot would be ashamed. My phone exploded with messages. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly had opinions. Aunt Ella called, her voice tight with disapproval. "Ava, this is embarrassing for the entire family. Your mother isn't even cold in the ground." She was cremated. Aunt Ella. "That's not the point. Pastor Jim says you're destroying Martin during his time of grief. Can't you just let this go?" I hung up. Let it go. Like I'd let go of everything else for 13 years. But the real blow came when Shelter Point Life Insurance sent their response to our challenge. Documentation appears valid. Payment processing to continue unless court injunction received within 5 business days. They're not taking us seriously. I told Noah over the phone. Then we make them. Meet me at the courthouse. We're filing for an emergency injunction. While we waited for the judge's decision, I decided to do some investigating of my own. I drove past Mom's house, Martin's house now, according to him, and saw a coming soon sign from Rapid Estate Solutions in the yard. The asking price was $70,000 below market value. I followed Martin to his meeting with the real estate agent at a coffee shop downtown. Sitting 2 tables away, I recorded everything on my phone. "Need this done within 2 weeks, Martin was saying. "Before the stepdaughter can cause more problems with her lawyers." That's pretty fast. The title search alone. Title's clear. My wife left everything to me. I've got power of attorney documents, the will, everything. Power of attorney Mom never mentioned that. And a will. She'd told me repeatedly she hadn't updated her will since before she married Martin. I called Sumi immediately. He's claiming to have documents we've never seen. Then he's either lying or he's created them recently. Either way, this helps us. The next morning, the judge granted our emergency injunction. Shelter Point couldn't release the funds pending investigation. Martin's response was swift and vicious. He called my employer, Northwind Freight Solutions, claiming I'd been stealing from my mother during her illness. He posted photos on Facebook, selective ones from the funeral where I was on the ground, making it look like I'd thrown myself down for attention. The caption read, "Mental illness runs in her family. Margot always worried about her stability." My supervisor, Janet, called me into her office. "Ava, I don't believe any of this, but HR is concerned about the public drama. Maybe you should take some time off. You're suspending me, paid leave, just until this blows over." I sat in my car in the company parking lot, shaking with rage. He was trying to destroy me, piece by piece, my reputation, my job, my mother's memory. That's when Cora called. "You need to see something. Can you come to the funeral home?" 20 minutes later, she was showing me her computer screen. I was reviewing our security footage from the week before the funeral. "Look at this." The timestamp read 3:45 a.m., 2 days before Mom's funeral. The video showed Martin entering through the back door with a box of documents. "He has his own key." I asked. "No, but watch." She zoomed in. Martin was using a crowbar on the door. "He broke in, and look what he's carrying out 15 minutes later." The same box, but heavier. And something else, a folder marked Rourke Estate Documents from our storage room where we keep paperwork for pre-planned funerals. Mom had pre-planned her funeral 5 years ago, I whispered. She'd left specific instructions, chosen her songs, everything, which Martin obviously ignored. But more importantly, Cora pulled up another file. Your mother had filed copies of her original will and insurance policies with us for safekeeping. He stole them. Can we prove what was in that box? Cora smiled. I did an inventory after the break-in. I know exactly what's missing, and I've already called the police. For the first time in days, I smiled too. Martin thought he'd covered all his bases, but he'd forgotten one thing Mom always said. I got my meticulous nature from her. She'd documented everything, backed up everything, prepared for everything, including, apparently, the possibility that her husband might try to steal her daughter's inheritance. We're going to give Martin exactly what he wants, Sumi said, spreading blueprints across the conference table at Franklin County Legal Aid. A quick house sale with a cash buyer who doesn't ask questions. Noah pulled out his laptop. I've already created the buyer profile. Cash Offer Columbus, LLC, registered yesterday. untraceable to us. And Martin will bring the documents he claims to have, I added. The power of attorney, the will he mentioned, all of it. Exactly. Sumi pointed to the meeting location on the blueprint. Pioneer Suites, Conference Room B. We've rented it for 3 hours tomorrow at 2 p.m. The room comes with security cameras for business protection, completely legal and disclosed. Detective Lyle from the Columbus PD sat across from us, reviewing Cora's evidence about the funeral home break-in. We can be there, but we need probable cause to arrest. The break-in alone is just misdemeanor trespass unless we can prove what he stole. That's where this comes in, I said, pulling out Mom's fountain pen, a vintage Parker she'd inherited from her father. Mom only wrote important documents with this pen, and she always used lavender purple ink. It was her signature, literally. Every nurse at the hospice knew it. She even mentioned it in her memoir writing class. Noah understood immediately. So, if Martin shows up with documents supposedly signed by your mother, we can test the ink right there. I've already had 3 of Mom's authentic signatures analyzed by a handwriting expert, her grocery lists, her journal, her last Mother's Day card to me. The ink formula is unique, discontinued in 2019. If Martin's documents are in blue or black ballpoint, forgery. Detective Lyle finished. That's a felony. Sumi pulled up the Shelter Point insurance investigation on her tablet. I've arranged for their fraud investigator, Patricia Morse, to join by video call. She'll have questions about the biometric access to your mother's phone. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Noah would pose as the assistant to our fictional cash buyer, conducting the initial meeting. I'd be in the adjoining room with Detective Lyle, watching through the camera feed. The moment Martin provided fraudulent documents or admitted to any crime, we'd have him. What if he doesn't take the bait? I asked. Cora, who'd been quiet until now, spoke up. He will. I saw him at the bank yesterday, arguing with a teller. His accounts are almost empty. The funeral costs, the mortgage on the house he needs money fast. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Mom's last coherent day, when she'd grabbed my hand with surprising strength. The orchid, she'd whispered. Water it for me. I'd thought she was confused, worried about her plants. Now I understood. She'd been trying to tell me about the key. At noon the next day, Noah sent the email from our fake buyer account. Mr. Hale, we're prepared to offer full asking price, cash, closing within 72 hours. We need to verify ownership documents. Can you meet today at 2 p.m.? Martin's response came within minutes. Yes, I'll bring everything. I sat in the adjoining room at Pioneer Suites, my laptop open to the camera feed, my hands steady despite my racing heart. Detective Lyle stood by the door with 2 uniformed officers. Sumi was on her phone with the insurance investigator. At 1:55 p.m., Martin arrived. He wore his funeral suit and carried a leather briefcase, Mom's briefcase, actually, from her teaching days. The sight of it made my chest tight. Mr. Hale, Noah greeted him, playing his part perfectly. Thank you for meeting on such short notice. Our client is eager to close quickly. Good. I need this done fast. Martin sat down, opened the briefcase. Here's everything. Will, power of attorney, death certificate, property deed. Noah examined the papers with practiced calm. These signatures, all your wife's, of course, signed just before she passed. She wanted to make sure everything was in order. On my laptop, I zoomed in on the documents. Blue ballpoint pen. Mom's M's were flat, wrong. The date on the power of attorney was 3 days after her last surgery, when medical records showed she was on continuous morphine drip, unable to even feed herself. Mr. Hale, Noah continued, our client's insurance requires we verify these documents. Do you mind if our document expert reviews them via video call? Martin shifted uncomfortably but nodded. Fine, I have nothing to hide. Patricia Morse appeared on the conference room screen. Mr. Hale, I'm reviewing the beneficiary change for the life insurance. Can you confirm how your wife's signature was obtained? She signed it, in the hospital. And the biometric access to her phone. We show multiple policy changes made via mobile app after her surgery. Martin's face reddened. She gave me permission. Set it up herself. While under sedation, Patricia's voice was sharp. We have medical records showing she was on continuous IV propofol during that time. She woke up for a few minutes. She wanted me to have access. I texted Detective Lyle. He's lying. I have the nurse's notes. On screen, Noah pulled out his phone. Mr. Hale, I'm going to need a moment to consult with my client. That was the signal. Time to spring the trap. The fluorescent lights in Pioneer Suites Conference Room B hummed with the same sick frequency as those at the funeral home. The smell of stale coffee mixed with Martin's cologne still too strong, still suffocating. He sat across from Noah, that black tie perfectly knotted, the pre-signed sale documents spread before him like playing cards. I stood up from my chair in the adjoining room and walked to the connecting door. Detective Lyle nodded. It was time. The door opened with a soft click. Martin's head snapped up, his face cycling through confusion, rage, and something that might have been fear. Hello, Martin. What the hell is this? He started to rise, but Noah gestured for him to sit. This is what speaking up sounds like, I said, stepping fully into the room. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. Let me read you 3 facts. 1, you assaulted me at my mother's funeral. 2, you forged her signature on multiple documents while she was dying. 3, you're attempting to illegally sell property that isn't yours. You lying little... Martin lunged forward, his hand raised. Please, continue, I said calmly, pointing to the camera in the corner. The insurance company is watching. Patricia Morse's voice came through the laptop speaker. Mr. Hale, I need you to explain something. You claimed your wife set up biometric access on her phone herself, but we have ICU records showing she was intubated during that entire period. How exactly did an intubated patient unlock her phone with Face ID? Martin's face went pale. She did it before the surgery. Patricia continued. The phone was purchased after her surgery. The receipt shows you bought it the day after her operation. I pulled out the audio recorder I'd been carrying since the funeral. Would you like to hear your greatest hits, Martin? I pressed play. His voice filled the room, tinny but clear from the funeral home's microphone. You're not my daughter. That's taken out of context. The context of you hitting me, because we have video of that too. Noah pulled up Cora's security footage on his laptop, angled so the camera could capture it. The image was crystal clear, Martin's fist connecting with my back, me falling forward, roses scattering. Mr. Hale, Patricia Morse said. I'm also curious about this power of attorney document. You said Margot signed it 3 days after her surgery. Yes. The attending physician's notes indicate she was experiencing severe neurological impairment from brain metastases at that time. She couldn't even recognize her own daughter. How did she understand complex legal documents? Martin's hands were shaking now. She had a moment of clarity. It happens. A moment of clarity where she decided to overturn 5 years of estate planning, change her beneficiaries, grant you total control. I stepped closer. And she happened to do all this with a blue ballpoint pen when everyone who knew her knows she only signed important documents with her purple Parker pen. You can't prove. Actually, we can. Detective Lyle entered the room, 2 uniformed officers behind him. Mr. Hale, we have a warrant to search your vehicle and residence based on the funeral home break-in. What break-in? Noah turned his laptop around, showing the security footage of Martin breaking into Ridgeview Memorial at 3:45. This break-in, where you stole original estate documents. Martin stood up so fast his chair fell backward. This is entrapment. You set me up. No, I said. You set yourself up the moment you decided my mother's cancer was your lottery ticket. Patricia Morse spoke again. Mr. Hale, one last question. You accessed Margot Rourke's phone using saved biometrics after her death, correct? To transfer funds and change account information. I want a lawyer. That's probably wise, Detective Lyle said, pulling out handcuffs. Martin Hale, you're under arrest for assault. breaking and entering, fraud, forgery, and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. As the officers cuffed him, Martin's face twisted with rage. That money is mine, I earned it, putting up with her weakness, her crying, her dying, I finished. Yes, how inconvenient that must have been for you. You think you've won, Martin snarled as they led him toward the door. I'll get a lawyer. I'll get out. I'll take everything. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the last piece of evidence, a handwritten letter in purple ink, dated 2 weeks before Mom died. If you're reading this, sweetheart, then he's trying to take what I left for you. Don't let him. Speak up. Speak loud. Make them hear you. All my love, Mom. You already lost. Martin, you lost the moment you told me I wasn't your daughter. Because you were right, I'm not. I'm Margot Rourke's daughter, and she taught me to fight back. Within 24 hours, the dominoes began to fall. The court issued an immediate freeze on the house sale. The coming soon sign disappeared from the yard before lunch, and Rapid Estate Solutions called to inform me they were no longer working with Mr. Hale due to questions about property ownership. By evening, Patricia Morse from Shelter Point Life Insurance had sent official notice. Pending criminal investigation. All payouts are suspended. Original beneficiary designation under review for reinstatement. The video from Pioneer Suites went viral in our community Facebook group before I even knew Noah had shared it. Not the arrest, just Martin's voice saying, "You're not my daughter," followed by the assault. Cora had edited it carefully, protecting my privacy while exposing his violence. Aunt Ella called at 8 p.m., her voice thick with tears. "Ava, I'm so sorry. We all saw. We all knew something was wrong. But we didn't. I should have stood up for you at the funeral." "You should have stood up for Mom while she was alive," I said, not unkindly, just truthfully. "You're right. God, you're right. Can you forgive me?" "Maybe. Ask me again when this is over." Pastor Jim left 3 voicemails, each more apologetic than the last. The final one. I failed in my duty as a spiritual leader. I counseled you to forgive when I should have counseled him to repent. I should have protected you in God's house. I'm deeply sorry. The most satisfying notification came from Franklin County Jail at 11:45 p.m. Martin's bail had been set at $50,000. His accounts were frozen, his credit cards maxed. He'd be spending the night in custody. The next morning, I returned to Mom's house with a police escort to retrieve her personal belongings. The officer helped me open the door. My key worked again since Martin's illegal lock change had been reversed. Inside, everything smelled like him. His cologne on the curtains, his cigarettes in the furniture, despite Mom's rule about not smoking indoors. The 70-inch TV dominated the living room where Mom's bookshelf used to be. I went straight to her room, their room, and opened the closet. Her clothes were already in garbage bags, ready for donation or disposal. Her jewelry box was empty except for costume pieces. But I knew where to look. Behind the winter coats, inside an old shoebox marked Tax Returns 1998. I found what Mom had really hidden: her father's gold watch, her mother's pearl necklace, and a USB drive wrapped in plastic. I plugged the drive into my laptop right there on Mom's bed. It contained everything: scanned copies of her original will, insurance policies, even voice recordings of her stating her wishes clearly, dated just 2 months ago. This is Margot Rourke. I am of sound mind despite my physical illness. I want my daughter, Ava Marie Rourke, to inherit my estate. My husband, Martin Hale, has his own retirement funds and doesn't need my teacher's pension or life insurance. This is for Ava's future. There were photos, too. Bruises on her arms from where Martin had grabbed her. Screenshots of text messages where he threatened to put her in a state facility if she didn't cooperate. And a video of Martin berating her while she lay in bed, too weak to respond, calling her pathetic, useless, a burden. I sat in that room, on her bed that still smelled faintly of her lavender lotion beneath his cologne, and I didn't cry. I'd save the tears for later, for when justice was fully served. My phone rang. Sumi Patel. Ava, I just got word from the prosecutor's office. They're adding elder abuse charges based on the evidence we've submitted, with the video from the house, the financial exploitation, the forgery he's looking at 15 to 20 years. Good. There's more. Martin's first wife came forward. She saw the news coverage. She has her own story about his control, his theft of her inheritance from her parents. She's willing to testify. I looked around the room, at the medical equipment still in the corner, the pills still lined up on the nightstand, the photo of Mom and me at my college graduation that Martin had turned face down. Sumi, how soon can we get the insurance payout restored to the original beneficiary? With the criminal charges filed within the week. I picked up the graduation photo, wiped the dust from the glass. Mom was so thin even then, but her smile was radiant, proud. That's my girl, she'd said that day. You're going to change the world. Not the world, Mom. But I'd changed our corner of it. I'd spoken up, just like you asked. Back in the laundry room, I watered the orchid somehow still alive despite 2 weeks of neglect. As I did, I found one more note, tucked under the pot. The truth always finds its voice. Sweetheart, make sure yours is the loudest. It was. Mom. It finally was. The parking lot of Pioneer Suites was bathed in sickly yellow light from the overhead lamps, the kind that made everything look washed out and desperate. Perfect lighting for Martin's final act. He stood beside the police cruiser, hands cuffed behind his back, his funeral suit wrinkled and pathetic. The arresting officers were finishing their paperwork, the engine idling with that low rumble that sounds like waiting judgment. "I'll get everything back," Martin snarled as I approached, spittle flying from his lips. "My lawyer will destroy you. You think you're smart, you're nothing. Just like your mother, weak. Pathetic, always crying about something." Detective Lyle stepped forward, but I raised my hand. I needed this moment. "You're right about one thing," I said, pulling the key to Mom's safe from my pocket. "I am like my mother, meticulous, prepared. She documented everything. Martin, every threat, every theft, every moment of abuse. It's all here." I handed the key to Detective Lyle. "The original evidence is in the safe, behind the dryer." Patricia Morse's voice came through Detective Lyle's phone. She was still on the line, listening. "Mr. Hale, based on the evidence presented, Shelter Point Life Insurance has reversed the beneficiary change. The original designation to Ava Rourke has been reinstated, effective immediately." Martin's face went purple. "That's my money I earned at 13 years of listening to her whine about pain, about treatment, about dying." I stepped closer, close enough to smell his fear beneath that too strong cologne. "Yes! How dare she inconvenience you with her cancer? You don't understand what I went through. No, you don't understand what she went through, dying while married to a monster who saw her illness as a payday. But here's what you really don't understand. Martin." I looked him straight in the eyes, those gray, bloodshot eyes that had terrorized us for so long. "You said I wasn't your daughter," he sneered. "You're not." "Exactly. I'm not your daughter. I'm Margot Rourke's daughter. And unlike you, she raised me to fight for what's right. She raised me to speak up, even when my voice shakes, even when people like you try to silence me." The detective opened the cruiser door. "Time to go. Mr. Hale." As they guided Martin into the back seat, I delivered my final words. "You thought you could beat me down at her funeral and I'd stay quiet. You thought wrong. My mother spent her last breath making sure I'd have a voice. And today, I used it, loud enough for prosecutors, judges, and insurance companies to hear, loud enough for everyone you fooled to finally see who you really are." Martin glared at me through the window as the cruiser pulled away, his mouth moving with what were probably curses I couldn't hear. I didn't need to. His words had no power anymore. Sumi appeared beside me, placing a folder in my hands. "The house deed, transferred back to your mother's estate. The insurance payout will process within 3 business days. Your mother's pension and remaining assets are secured. What about his charges? With the evidence you provided, the forged documents, the elder abuse video, the financial exploitation. The prosecutor says it's one of the strongest cases they've seen. 15 to 20 years minimum, possibly more with his first wife's testimony. Noah joined us, grinning. Your supervisor called. Northwind wants you back Monday, with a raise for maintaining professional composure during personal crisis. I looked up at the night sky. Somewhere beyond the yellow parking lot lights. The stars were invisible here, but I knew they were there. Just like Mom's love, invisible now, but always there. She told me to speak up if I had to, I said quietly. In her last letter, she said if I needed to be loud to be heard, then be loud. You were, Sumi said. You were loud enough to shake the whole system. Good. I turned back toward my car, Mom's graduation photo tucked under my arm, her orchid waiting in a box in my back seat. Because sometimes the only way to honor the silent is to refuse to be silenced yourself. As I drove away from Pioneer Suites for the last time, I didn't look back. Martin was gone. The house would be sold properly, at market value. The insurance would pay for my student loans and give me the fresh start Mom wanted for me. And somewhere, somehow, I knew she was proud. I'd spoken up. I'd spoken loud. And finally, everyone had heard. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your own experiences and perspectives make these stories come alive. What would you have done in Ava's situation? Let me know in the comments.